your wife at Davidson's, buying peaches near the bread. She smiled politely when she saw me, then gently turned her head. Your little boy was asking for candy near the aisle. He's got your same green eyes and your crooked kind of smile. The radio above us played some old Carole King tune, and suddenly the grocery store felt painfully too small for the room. Funny how life keeps moving like nothing ever breaks, while somebody somewhere quietly learns what living takes. Some love doesn't disappear, it just changes shape with time, turns into old photographs and songs you leave behind. And sometimes in a crowded store on an ordinary day, you realize the heart survives even after love walks away. I drove back through Pasadena, past the house we almost bought. The jacaranda trees still bloom there like they forgot. There's a couple renting now, they painted the porch blue. I wonder if they slow dance the way we used to do. I remember Sunday mornings, coffee brewing on the stove, and your records playing softly before we both grew old. Back when forever sounded simple, like something people did before life became a hallway full of unopened gifts. Some love never really dies, it just learns to live apart, like smoke still clinging softly to an old winter scarf. And every now and then at night, when old songs start to play, I still become the girl I was before you went away. Maybe we were never meant to survive the years ahead. Maybe certain kinds of love only bloom before they end. Still, I'm grateful for the memories, even the painful ones, because some people spend their whole lives never loving anyone. Tonight the windows open wide to California air, and somewhere far across this city, you're probably sitting there, maybe half remembering the summer of '74, when we thought the world was ours and needed nothing more. Some love becomes tenderness long after passion fades, like warm light through old curtains at the ending of the day. And though your life belongs elsewhere, part of mine still stays inside that little grocery store on an ordinary day.
Linda works the night shift down at Highway 9 Cafe. pours coffee for truck drivers till the sky begins turning gray. She keeps her hair tied loosely with a ribbon faded red, and hums along to old soul songs while wiping tables clean instead. Everybody there knows her husband disappeared, left one winter morning and never reappeared. Still she smiles at strangers like kindness costs nothing at all, though loneliness hangs around her like smoke against the wall. Some people survive heartbreak one quiet day at a time, learning how to carry pain without letting it define. And somewhere between midnight coffee and jukebox melodies, she found a way to keep living with broken memories. There's an old man every Thursday who orders pie and tea and talks about Sinatra like it's still 1953. A young couple near the window keep holding hands too tight, like they're afraid the world outside could steal away tonight. Linda watches softly while refilling their drinks, probably remembering things she no longer thinks. Sometimes life keeps moving even when your heart stands still, and survival becomes something you learn against your will. Some people lose forever before they turn 25, then spend the rest of their years trying to stay alive. And somewhere between tired smiles and neon buzzing blue, she stopped waiting for the light she thought she'd live with you. Time, the silence feels heavier somehow, like empty chairs remembering who used to fill them out. But dawn always arrives, no matter how dark it gets, and people learn to breathe again, even with regrets. Linda locks the diner as the morning traffic grows. The sky above the highway softly golden rose. She lights herself a cigarette and watches the sun rise, like someone finally learning how to survive goodbye. Some people become stronger, not because they wanted to, but because the world kept turning after losing you. And somewhere down Highway 9, when lonely old songs play, Linda keeps on living anyway.
apartment 14B still smells faintly like your cologne. Though you moved out in November, and I've lived here alone since then. The landlord fixed the hallway light last week around noon. Funny how small repairs continue after somebody ruins you. I bought new curtains in December, tried painting all the walls, as if changing colors somehow could soften empty halls. But every night around midnight, the pipes begin to sing, and memory comes walking slowly back through everything. New York keeps moving forward, no matter who gets left behind. Taxi lights and crowded sidewalks never stop for anyone's goodbye. Still some nights the city feels too large for just one heart, especially in apartment 14B after dark. Mrs. Romano downstairs still asks about you sometimes. She says we look like movie stars back in happier times. There's a pianist across the street who practices till 2, and every lonely melody somehow sounds like you. I started taking evening classes at the art school nearby, mostly just to fill the hours before another night arrives. Funny how adulthood becomes 1,000 little tasks you perform while quietly hiding behind a smiling mask. New York teaches lonely people how to disappear in crowds, how to carry private sadness without saying it out loud. Still every winter evening, when cold wind shakes the glass, apartment 14B remembers everything we had. Maybe love doesn't fail, maybe people simply change, like seasons crossing cities without asking anything. Still I miss the version of myself who believed we'd always last, back before forever became something in the past. Tonight snow falls softly outside the fire escape, and somewhere downtown strangers kiss without knowing what heartbreak takes. I pour another glass of wine and let the record spin, trying not to think too much about who I've been. New York keeps glowing brightly, even when hearts go dim, and somewhere inside apartment 14B I learned how to begin again.
Water-fixed old radios in a shop beside the tracks. Spent 40 years repairing voices people thought they'd never get back. His wife died in '68 from a winter illness fast, and everybody figured Walter wouldn't last. But every morning at 8 sharp, he unlocked that little door, swept dust from the counters like always before. There's something about grief nobody explains, how ordinary life continues even after pain. Some hearts don't heal completely, they just learn how to bend, like old stations through static, trying to sing again. And somewhere between the silence and songs from long ago, Walter found a way to survive what nobody survives whole. Teenagers brought transistor sets broken from careless use. Walter always fixed them cheap, said young people needed music. Sometimes after closing, he'd sit there by himself, listening to Patsy Cline records pulled down from the shelf. Folks around town respected him, though he rarely talked much now. Lost turned certain people quiet without explaining how. Still every Christmas season, he placed lights in the store, like part of him still waited for footsteps through the door. Some people carry memory like a photograph inside their coat, close enough to warm them, heavy enough to hold. And somewhere through old country songs floating from the radio, Walter kept her alive long after letting go. Love isn't always fireworks, sometimes it's fixing things, keeping fragile music alive despite what time can bring. Maybe that's what devotion is after youth disappears, choosing tenderness quietly, year after year. One morning in late autumn, Walter never came. The barber found the front door locked and softly spoke his name. They said the shop felt peaceful, with sunlight on the floor, and Patsy singing gently like she had years before. Some hearts leave echoes long after they are gone, like warm voices through old speakers, still softly carrying on. And somewhere in that tiny shop, beside the railroad glow, Walter still repairs old songs in the minds of those who know.
I was dancing in the kitchen to an old Diana Ross song, wearing one of your dress shirts 3 sizes too long. The dishes sat forgotten beside the sink all night, while city lights flickered softly through the blinds outside. There's freedom in small loneliness nobody talks about, like singing badly at midnight with nobody around. Funny how surviving heartbreak sometimes starts that way. One ordinary evening you decide to stay, and life keeps unfolding slowly. Even after goodbye, morning still arrives eventually, no matter how hard you cry. So I keep dancing in the kitchen like the world hasn't ended yet, learning how to live beside the things I can't forget. The neighbors downstairs banged once when I turned the music loud, but honestly, for the first time I felt proud. Not because I stopped missing you or suddenly felt strong, but because for 3 whole minutes I forgot something was wrong. I made coffee around sunrise and opened every window wide, let cold Chicago air rush in like the tide. Maybe healing isn't dramatic, maybe it's this small, a woman learning not to break inside her apartment walls. And life keeps moving quietly, like trains beyond the street, teaching lonely people slowly how to stand on tired feet. So I keep dancing in the kitchen to old Motown melodies, trying to become someone who still believes in things. There are women all across this city doing exactly what I do, learning how to rebuild themselves after loving someone like you. And maybe that's beautiful somehow, not tragic like before. Maybe broken hearts aren't endings, maybe they're doors. The sun climbs through the curtains onto the wooden floor, and suddenly this little apartment doesn't feel lonely anymore. I finish washing dishes while the final record plays, and somewhere inside myself something quietly changed, because life keeps unfolding softly even after goodbye, and hearts survive in strange small ways nobody can describe. So if you ever think about me years from now someday, picture me dancing in the kitchen anyway. Sunday laundry in Brooklyn, sheets hanging near the fire escape. Mrs. Levin yelling at pigeons like like she does most days. The laundromat downstairs is crowded, children running through the steam, and somebody's old transistor radio keeps leaking Motown melodies. I fold your winter sweater slowly, though they don't belong to me now. Funny how hands remember habits long after hearts figure things out. Across the alley, a young couple's dancing barefoot in their room, like they still believe love stories never end too soon. Some afternoons feel softer, even when they ache a little, like sunlight touching dust particles inside forgotten buildings. And life keeps speaking quietly through ordinary things, through old soul songs, warm towels, and the comfort Sunday brings. I stop for coffee at Rosario's. He still asks about your band, says your plate ain't no mountain high enough, better than anyone he'd heard. There's a girl sketching strangers near the frosted cafe glass. I wonder if she notices how quickly people pass. Back then we thought adulthood meant certainty and grace, not learning how to smile politely when somebody says your name. Still the city keeps unfolding, brick by brick, train by train, teaching lonely people gently how to carry change. Some memories lose sharpness, like denim worn with years, but tenderness survives somehow, even after tears. And somewhere in this borough, while church bells slowly ring, I'm learning how to miss you without missing everything. Maybe peace isn't dramatic, maybe it arrives this way, through laundry steam and coffee cups on quiet winter days. Maybe healing looks ordinary until one afternoon you realize the world feels lighter than it used to. The sunset turns the windows orange along Atlantic Avenue, and strangers hurry homeward through the early evening blue. I finish folding all the laundry as Marvin Gaye still sings, and suddenly this tiny apartment feels gentler than it's been. Some Sundays leave small footprints inside the heart for years, not because they changed your whole life, but because they made it easier. And somewhere above for you to arrive.
There's a piano player nightly down at the Barclay Lounge. He wears cream-colored jackets and never talks much now. Tourists barely notice him, businessmen drink rye, but every woman in the room looks twice when he plays Misty Live. The bartender told me once he had a record deal back before California took away whatever he used to feel. Now he rents room 312 above the lobby stairs, with 2 suits, a cigarette case, and silver thinning hair. Some people fade so quietly, the world forgets they shine, like melodies abandoned somewhere between the lines. But every night around 11, when his fingers touch those keys, the whole room suddenly remembers what longing used to mean. There's a waitress named Lorraine who brings him coffee free. She lingers by the piano longer than she needs to be. Sometimes during closing they laugh like old friends do, like maybe broken people recognize each other's wounds. Outside, the taxis shimmer across wet Manhattan streets, while lonely businessmen keep chasing things they'll never keep. Funny how music survives even after dreams collapse, still finding ways to haunt you between the smoke and jazz. Some people lose their futures long before they lose their youth, then spend decades learning slowly how to live beside the truth. Still, every note he plays tonight feels warm enough to heal, like someone reaching carefully for something still real. Maybe talent isn't glory, maybe it's endurance instead, still creating beauty softly after hope has left. Maybe sadness sharpens certain songs till they almost bleed, and audiences hear themselves inside every melody. The piano player finishes around 1:15. Lorraine turns off the bar lights and asks if he needs someone. He smiles but shakes his head gently, then walks upstairs alone, past faded velvet wallpaper, toward his rented room. Some songs never become famous, still they carry lives inside. And somewhere in room 312, old dreams survive tonight.
Your letters from San Diego still sleep inside my drawer, edges curling from the salt air like seashells from the shore. You wrote about the harbor lights and fishing boats at dawn, and how the ocean sounded lonely after I was gone. Back then I lived in Denver, waitressing near Colfax Road, counting tips in coffee tins and trying not to feel too old. The radio played Fleetwood Mac till 2 a.m. each night, while truckers drank black coffee under buzzing neon light. Distance changes people slowly like tides reshaping stone, till one day you wake up somewhere and barely feel alone. Still certain words survive the years like perfume on old clothes, soft reminders of the people only memory knows. You asked me once in August if I'd move out to the coast, but fear makes cowards out of hearts that want somebody most. So I stayed among the winters, and you stayed near the sea, and life became two separate roads for you and me. I married for a little while a kind man from Duluth. He loved me honestly enough, just not the way you used to. Now my daughter's nearly 20 and studies poetry. Funny what survives a person across decades quietly. Distance leaves small fingerprints on every life it parts, not dramatic like the movies, just quiet in the heart. And every now and then at night, when cold winds shake the panes, I still hear waves from San Diego inside the rain. Maybe we were never meant to build a life together. Maybe certain loves exist like beautiful weather, brief enough to leave you changed, gentle enough to keep long after years have carried both people somewhere deep. Tonight I open one old envelope stamped 1973. Your handwriting still slants the same across faded cream. Outside the snow keeps falling against the darkened street, while somewhere far beside the ocean, summer still repeats. Your letters from San Diego no longer make me cry. They simply sit beside the window like another lifetime. And sometimes that is all love becomes, not sorrow, not regret, just proof your heart was once alive and hasn't forgotten yet.
Frank drives nights on Mulberry since the factory shut down. Carries businessmen and drunks through sleeping downtown. There's There's always Sinatra playing low across the dashboard glow, and coffee stains beside the meter from years ago. He had a daughter once in Queens who moved away to school. Now postcards come at Christmas with oceans in the view. Funny how cities swallow people, block by block, year by year, till the only thing still moving is the taxi through the rearview mirror. Some men spend whole lifetimes learning how to disappear, quiet as streetlights fading at the edge of another year. Still every stranger in the backseat leaves fragments of a story behind, and Frank keeps driving slowly through the arteries of nighttime. Around 2:30 mornings, he parks beside the pier, smokes Chesterfields in silence, watching fog dissolve the pier. Young lovers leave the discos, laughing into dawn, too young to understand yet how quickly youth is gone. A trumpet playing near Canal Street performs for spare change nightly. The melody flows through the traffic almost unbearably lightly. Frank listens with the window cracked, hands resting on the wheel, like music still remembers things people no longer feel. Some roads don't lead anywhere, still you follow them a while, because motion feels safer somehow than sitting with your mind. And somewhere between Chinatown and the East River tide, Frank keeps carrying strangers while loneliness rides beside. Maybe everybody's searching for one face inside the crowd, someone who once knew their name before life got too loud. Maybe cities only survive because broken people do, keeping all the lights alive for somebody passing through. Near sunrise he drops a woman at an apartment on Grand. She thanks him with tired kindness and touches briefly his hand. Then morning spills across Manhattan, soft silver over stone, and Frank drives toward Queens slowly to sleep alone. Spark, and every dawn above the city finds Frank doing what he does, carrying other people home, because he no longer has one.
I was drinking orange juice at midnight, standing barefoot by the sink, watching summer lightning flicker, while trying not to think. The neighbor's television echoed through the paper-thin walls, some late-night comedy rerun, full of canned applause. I used to hate this apartment back when you first moved away. Now the cracked tiles and dim hallways feel strangely safe. Funny how grief rearranges the shape of ordinary rooms till loneliness becomes familiar, like an old perfume. Some nights don't need rescuing, they simply need to pass. Quiet as ceiling fans turning above shadows on the glass. And somewhere between sorrow and finally being free, I learned how to keep myself company. Earlier today at work, a customer flirted lightly, the kind of harmless conversation that used to frighten me. But I laughed without pretending and drove home through evening heat, with Al Green singing softly across the passenger seat. There's a tiny plant beside the window I somehow kept alive. Maybe healing starts exactly there, in small unnoticed signs. Not dramatic like the movies, no sudden grand return, just your heart becoming softer where it used to burn. Some people think moving on means forgetting everything, but memory can coexist beside the peace new mornings bring. And somewhere inside this silence, while distant sirens fade, I stop measuring my worth by who decided not to stay. Maybe adulthood simply means learning how to sit alone without reaching for the telephone every time the dark comes close. Maybe strength looks ordinary, a woman washing dishes slow while thunder rolls beyond the city and old records glow. The lightning fades by morning, humidity hangs low, and sunlight spills across the counter. Warm and gold, I rinse the empty glass softly as Marvin sings goodbye. And suddenly the future doesn't seem unkind. Some nights become turning points without announcing they exist. Just orange juice at midnight and a heart learning this: life keeps unfolding quietly, even after someone leaves, and peace arrives in tiny ways if you let yourself believe. Evelyn sells carnations on Melrose after 5, wraps them carefully in paper, like keeping dreams alive. Movie people pass her window, talking loudly about fame, while she waters tiny roses and forgets their names. She once almost moved to Paris with a sculptor from Bel Air, but he fell in love with cocaine and another woman there. Now she lives above the flower shop with a cat named June, and watches sunset stain the city copper every afternoon. Some women learn resilience in beautifully quiet ways, through arranging broken stems into something worth displaying. And every evening boulevard still glows beneath the haze, while Evelyn keeps opening the shop each day. The teenage boy comes Thursdays, buying lilies for his mom. He blushes every single time and counts his dollars wrong. An actor from the valley orders orchids every spring. For a wife he stopped loving around 1973. Still Evelyn ties ribbons, gentle as a prayer, because tenderness survives longest when people choose to care. Outside the traffic crawls slowly under fading orange skies, and old Donna's summer songs float through passing nights. Some heartbreak leaves a bruise, others leave a room inside, where loneliness sits quietly beside your softer side. But every flower still opens despite what storms have done, and Evelyn keeps believing in small beautiful things anyway. Maybe surviving youth means releasing what collapsed, without becoming bitter about the things that never lasted. Maybe grace looks ordinary, a woman sweeping floors at dusk, still finding reasons to arrange beauty out of dust. At closing time she lights incense and counts the register slow, then stands beside the doorway, watching headlights glow. The jacarandas sway lightly above the evening crowd, and somewhere deep within herself she finally feels proud. Some people become gardens after years of rain and loss, rooted deeper by the winters they somehow lived across. And every night on Melrose, when the western sky turns gold, Evelyn keeps selling flowers without growing cold.
The last bus to Cincinnati pulled out around 1:15. 9:30, carrying factory workers and people leaving lives behind. There was a preacher near the back seat, reading quietly by hand. A waitress with tired mascara and a wedding ring tan line. I sat beside the window, watching Ohio roll by, cornfields disappearing softly under winter skies. The driver played old country music low above the engine sound, like heartbreak somehow traveled every town to town. Some journeys aren't adventures, they're simply what comes next, after plans collapse slowly and your future gets reset. Still the road keeps stretching onward beneath telephone wire lines, and lonely people keep surviving 1 mile at a time. Across the aisle, a young soldier slept with his coat pulled tight, muttering someone's first name through the middle of the night. An older woman offered candies from a paper Sears bag, said kindness matters most when the world turns bad. Funny how strangers sometimes feel safer than your friends, because they don't ask questions about where your story ends. Outside the truck stop diners glowed blue against the snow, like tiny islands for the weary, trying to keep warm. Some people lose direction without making a sound, just waking one December in a different town. Still every tired passenger carries some hidden ache, and every highway teaches how much the heart can take. Maybe freedom isn't glamorous, maybe it smells like diesel smoke and stale coffee in paper cups, swallowed Merle Haggard floats. Maybe adulthood means accepting that not every dream survives, still getting on the bus anyway and continuing your life. Near dawn we cross the river, silver under morning frost, and somehow everything behind me felt farther than it was. The preacher closed his Bible, the waitress tied her hair, and sunlight spilled across the seats like mercy everywhere. Some roads don't heal your sorrow, they simply help you move far enough to realize you still have life to lose. stop mourning who I've been and let the morning in.
Nina smokes on balconies in silk robes after dark, watching taxis cross Manhattan like fireflies in the park. There's a half-finished screenplay sprawled across her kitchen floor, and unpaid acting classes stuffed behind the bedroom door. She used to sing in Chelsea lounges for men who drank gin slow, before disco swallowed everything around 1974. Now she answers phones for lawyers near Lexington each day, then returns home every evening to quietly drift away. Some dreams don't die dramatically, they fade like nightclub signs, still glowing faintly somewhere at the edges of your mind. And every cigarette she finishes carries one small goodbye into the sleepless New York sky. There's a saxophone downstairs, played by somebody unseen. The melody climbs upwards softly through the humid summer steam. Nina leans against the railing and remembers being 22, wearing white boots in Greenwich Village, believing art could save you. Funny how ambition changes after rent comes due, and survival becomes more urgent than becoming someone new. Still she buys fresh flowers Fridays and leaves records spinning low, because beauty matters deeply to people who almost let it go. Some women keep surviving through lipstick, jazz, and grace, learning how to build a life inside an unfinished place. And every glowing balcony above the avenue holds somebody quietly wondering what became of youth. Maybe failure isn't tragic, maybe it's simply being human, living years you never planned for, yet continuing to move in them. Maybe dignity means staying tender even after disappointment stays, like music through thin apartment walls at the end of long hot days. Around 3 a.m. the city softens, traffic finally slows, and moonlight spills across the rooftop, pale as cigarette smoke. Nina crushes out the last one, then closes the balcony door, while somewhere down on Houston Street a saxophone still mourns. Some lives become quieter without becoming small, and somewhere inside Nina the singer survives it all.
Mr. Carmichael cuts hair on Jefferson Pine, keeps an old Philco radio playing all the time. Teenagers come Saturdays asking for Travolta styles, while old men argue baseball and stay talking a while. Photographs line the mirror, faded from years of sun. Weddings, fishing trips, parades, little league teams that won. His wife passed 6 September's back, yet her coat still hangs behind, beside the tiny break room, like she stepped out for a time. Some places hold memory inside every chair and wall, like voices trapped in wood grain, refusing to dissolve. And every old radio song floating through the room makes ordinary afternoons feel briefly less doomed. There's a boy named Danny Porter who sweeps the floors each night, saving tips for community college and trying to do things right. Mr. Carmichael teaches him how to steady nervous hands, says patience matters more than talent in becoming any man. Outside the hardware store closes as autumn settles in. Pickup trucks roll slowly homeward past fields growing thin. Funny how small towns continue no matter who leaves them behind, holding grief and beauty quietly side by side. Some people become anchors for neighborhoods and years, without newspapers noticing their small acts of care. And every customer departing carries something away, more than shortened hair at the end of the day. Maybe love survives longest in ordinary routines, coffee brewed before sunrise and radios in between. Maybe devotion looks humble, not dramatic like movies do, just showing up each morning for the life entrusted to you. At closing time, the shadows stretch across the checkered floor. Danny flips the open sign to closed once more. Mr. Carmichael shuts the radio after one last Sam Cooke tune, then stands outside the barber shop beneath the rising moon. Some stories never make headlines, still they shape the world somehow, through steady hands and quiet kindness, repeated year by year now. And somewhere down on Jefferson, when evening breezes blow, the barber shop still glows softly, like 20 years ago.
Mama bakes strawberry pie every 4th of July, with flour on her apron and sunlight in her eyes. Neighbors filled the backyard, passing lemonade around. Children chased fireflies barefoot across the cooling ground. Daddy tuned the station to old Motown late at night, while folding lawn chairs slowly under porch light. Back then the world seemed smaller, safe enough somehow, measured by familiar voices and the creek outside town. Some summers stay inside you long after they are gone, like warm wind through screen doors or an unfinished song. And every time July returns with skies stretched deep in blue, part of me walks barefoot again through 1972. My brother dreamed of California and left when he turned 19, sending postcards home occasionally from places we'd never seen. Mama kept them in the pantry beside old recipes, as if preserving paper could preserve family. Years moved on like rivers, quiet, steady, strange. People married, cities changed us, grandparents grew aged. Still certain smells unlock entire worlds in less than a second flat, like strawberries, warm sugar, and conversations after dark. Some memories don't wound you, they simply make you pause to honor who you once were before learning what life costs. And every summer evening now, when fireworks begin, I hear laughter from that backyard carried softly by the wind. Maybe happiness isn't rare, maybe it happens constantly, in kitchens, porches, tiny moments we fail at noticing. Maybe the heart protects certain days from being lost to time, wrapping them in sweetness gently, like old nursery rhymes. Tonight my daughter asks me why I smile while washing plates. I tell her sometimes memories arrive without a shape. Outside the neighborhood glimmers, red, white, and blue above, while somewhere deep inside myself I still feel young enough. Some summers become lanterns you carry through the years, lighting ordinary evenings with tenderness instead of tears. And every strawberry July still tastes a little sweet, like home before the world grew large and pulled us from our street. Louis stitched wedding dresses on the east side of Detroit, hands steady as church hymns, even after years destroyed. Factories had started closing, men lined bars by noon, and snow settled gray as newspaper across the avenue. Still brides arrived each Tuesday with magazines and lace, dreaming of white satin futures written softly on their face. Louise measured every heartbeat hidden underneath the seams, because she understood how fragile people's hopes could be. Some women become keepers of other people's joy, holding broken neighborhoods together with thread and patience poised. And every gown she finished carried silent prayers inside, for tenderness to outlast whatever time might decide. She married young at 17 to a trumpet player named Ray, who vanished into gambling debts one cold November day. After that she stopped expecting grand romance to arrive. Instead she learned the quieter art of simply staying alive. There's dignity in small routines, coffee brewed before dawn, the radio humming softly while another day comes on. Outside the city trembled, but Louise kept sewing pearls onto sleeves and collars for hope for younger girls. Some hearts stop asking questions after surviving enough pain. They simply keep creating beauty in spite of everything, and every needle through the fabric made a tiny shining line, like proof something delicate could still survive hard times. Maybe love isn't fireworks, maybe it's gentler than that. A woman fixing hymns carefully with Sinatra playing in the back. Maybe grace looks ordinary until years reveal the truth, that kindness is a stronger thing than bitterness or youth. One April afternoon a bride cried, seeing herself in white. Louise adjusted the veil softly near the mirror light. For one brief second both women stood smiling through tears, connected by invisible threads across completely different years. Some lives never make headlines, still they leave warmth behind, like stitches hidden carefully inside the fabric of time. And somewhere on the east side, when church bells start to ring, Louise keeps sowing tenderness into everything.
Television flickers blue inside Motel 8, while trucks hum down the interstate. Past midnight, getting late, I'm eating vending machine peanuts in a wrinkled business shirt, watching old reruns quietly, trying not to hurt. 3 weeks ago in Tulsa, my wife finally said goodbye. Not angry, not dramatic, just tired in the eyes. Funny how endings happen without thunder or rain. Sometimes they arrive softly, like somebody changing trains. Some motel rooms hold silence, heavier than stone, teaching grown men slowly how to sit alone. And every passing headlight, crossing faded blinds, feels like another version of the life you left behind. There's a Bible in the drawer here, beside untouched cigarettes, and someone carved J plus M forever into the laminate. The ice machine keeps rattling near the soda sign outside, like mechanical heartbeats keeping watch through the night. Earlier at the diner, a waitress called me home. Such a tiny kindness nearly undid me completely all at once. Maybe loneliness sharpens the smallest human things, a stranger's voice, warm coffee, or the comfort old songs bring. Some roads aren't escapes, they're just distance you create between yourself and memories too heavy to navigate. Still dawn arrives eventually, over parking lot concrete, and exhausted hearts keep waking even after defeat. Maybe marriage doesn't fail, maybe people simply drift, like radio stations fading beyond transmission limits. Still I miss ordinary moments more than grand romance. Her reading by the sofa lamp, or reaching for my hand. Around 5 the trucks grow fewer, and pale light fills the room. The maid downstairs starts whistling an old Johnny Cash tune. I shower, shave, and pack my suitcase slowly for the road, while morning spreads across the highway, dusty pink and gold. Some men keep driving onward without knowing what they see, just trusting motion somehow makes sorrow less complete. And somewhere past Missouri, when the radio plays low, I finally stop replaying the night she let me go.
Aprons hanging by the door, coffee rings beside the sink. Mama used to stand there humming whenever she would think. Daddy worked at General Motors till his back gave out one spring. After that he grew tomatoes and stopped fixing everything. Sunday dinners fill the hallway with garlic bread and steam. Aunt Teresa telling stories too loud for 17. Back then the house felt endless, warm enough to stay, before marriages and airports pulled everybody away. Some homes survive inside you long after they are gone, like flower dust in sunlight or old religious songs. And every kitchen memory carries quiet grace, a tenderness adulthood can never quite replace. Mama cried exactly twice the day my brother left, once beside the station wagon and never again after that. The strength in certain women no newspaper ever writes, holding families together through ordinary nights. Years later, after funerals and babies of my own, I finally understood how lonely parents feel at home. Still sometimes while washing dishes, I catch her voice in mine, soft as evening television at supper time. Some people teach love silently without saying very much, through packed lunches, folded blankets, and small forgiving touch. And every fading memory of crowded family rooms feels sweeter as the decades keep passing through. Maybe growing older means recognizing sacrifice, the hidden ways your parents gave their entire lives. Maybe gratitude arrives late, but arrives all the same, like realizing years later who sheltered you from pain. Tonight my daughter asks me for the sauce recipe, while Motown softly crackles through the kitchen speaker's heat. Outside, Chicago snowfall covers cars in white, and suddenly the past feels warm and bright. Some aprons keep swinging softly inside the mind for years, like proof that love existed long before your fears. And somewhere in that old house, beyond the reach of time, Mama's standing by the stove again, humming quietly tonight.
Every Friday near sunset, a violin drifts through the block. From the rooftop of the Windsor, above the pawn shop, Nobody knows the old man's name or why he plays up there, facing west toward Jersey sunlight and the polluted summer air. Children pause their basketball games, couples lean from windowsills. Taxi horns soften somehow against those lonely trills. I first heard him after Linda left, in the heat of '79, standing beside the fire escape, with too much on my mind. Some music finds the places words are unable to reach, touching bruises hidden deep beneath the surfaces we keep. And every note above the rooftops floats fragile through the haze, like mercy visiting the city at the end of exhausted days. There's a grocery clerk named Benny who smokes during the songs, and a nurse from St. Vincent's who quietly sings along. For 7 minutes every Friday, the whole neighborhood slows down, as if grief and rent and loneliness lose their grip somehow. Funny how beauty appears in unexpected forms, not grand enough for headlines, still enough to keep you warm. After Linda moved to Phoenix, I thought tenderness had gone. Then a violin from nowhere proved me wrong. Some strangers heal each other without ever meeting face to face, simply by reminding someone the world still holds grace. And every rooftop melody crossing evening air makes this cracked and crowded city feel briefly repaired. Maybe art was never meant to make people famous or rich. Maybe it exists for moments exactly like this, a tired neighborhood remembering its heart still beats beneath traffic lights and overdue bills and ordinary grief. Winter finally reached Manhattan, snow gathering on rails. Still the violin kept rising through December gales. One Friday the rooftop stayed silent, no melody appeared, and somehow every apartment window looked dimmer that year. Some people leave no photographs, still they alter lives unseen, like distant violins at sunset, floating over Queens. And every Friday evening now, when orange skies grow thin, I still step onto the fire escape, listening for him.